potjie kos, dit is allemaal mos. Hoendertjie of broeivlees, zelfs een snoek is kos.
Hello, how's it? My name is Ben Kruger. Welcome to my kitchen, and this is potjie kos. Now, for those of you who watched my last video, you will remember that Izelle, who is a lifestyle chef, tasted my venison tomato bready and said she could make it even tastier in a much healthier fashion. So, she's back, I'm back, and I can't wait to hear what Izelle has to say. Take it away.
So hi there, Ben, and hi there, viewers. Yes, so of course what I did was I challenged Ben to say, you know, it's one thing to eat tasty, good food, but it's something else to, just put a little bit of a mindful spin on it and go and replace some of the ingredients with healthier ones so that you can have all of the goodness, all of the quality of the ingredients with all of the taste, of course. And for that reason, yes, I did challenge you, but we're going to put a little bit of a twist on it because we're making my beef goulash recipe today. It's also the recipe in my book, in fact, Ben. So also happy to share this recipes with viewers afterwards. And yes, would love to hear their feedback and some comments and even suggestions.
Let's go. Where do we start?
So first things first, of course, we're going to start by frying the onion in our beautiful pot here in some olive oil. And the reason we're making use of olive oil is because it's an anti-inflammatory. So for that reason, it's always my oil base of choice. Now our onion is the one here in the front bin, so I think we can actually open up the pot. I'm going to put the book there just for a second. And let's talk about onion quickly. Now, onion is one of those very underrated ingredients, and I need to say it like that because a lot of people think, it's just one of those dish starters almost, because in Afrikaans cuisine it's so often that before you start actually making any meat or vegetable dish, you fry an onion.
Well, as you say that, every potjie kos dish that I do starts off with oil and onion because the onion lines the bottom of the pot, and you don't necessarily put it in for the taste or anything. It's purely a mechanical thing to stop your meat from burning.
You see, now that's your opinion, but the reason I love putting onion in my food is because, did you know, Ben, that onion is antiviral, antifungal, but it's also a natural antibiotic.
Okay.
So we're going to be cooking with medicine. In the oil we go. Are you going to be adding some beautiful olive oil to the pot for us?
Indeed.
Now let's just talk about the red onion for a second, because also in your recipe we spoke about the different kind of onions that you get. And a red onion is by nature a little bit sweeter than your normal savannah or your normal yellow or golden onions that you find. And why I love, first of all, to make use of them is because you eat and feast with your eyes. So as you can see, we're playing with a whole lot of colors here today. So that's point one. But point two is also, it's by nature a lot sweeter. So often children don't like eating things like onions because they don't like that pungent taste. And this one is already one step in the right direction. So we're going to start by adding that then to the pot. For those of you watching, it is 2 onions that I've just pre-diced. Reason being, I don't like crying on camera or on set. And if for some reason I always start crying when I cut an onion.
Yeah, I've managed to not cry while cutting onions.
So I have a theory. I have a theory, is because women, we can't keep quiet. And if you keep your mouth closed when you cut an onion, then it tends to not burn the eye so much.
That's what I do.
Well, there you go. So onions in the pot, olive oil in the pot. Now over to our next ingredients. We've also got some green pepper here today. Now for those of you, I absolutely love adding peppers to my dishes. Why? Again, because it's an anti-inflammatory. Now bear in mind, we are cooking with red meat today. Red meat by nature causes a lot of acidity. So if we're looking after our gut health, cholesterol, blood pressure, things like that, we need to keep our acidity levels intact. Okay. And for that reason, every single ingredient we're making use of for flavoring today is in fact an anti-inflammatory, so that we can cut down that acidity that's going to be caused by our red meat.
Okay. I was for a moment going to start crying when I heard you say that I'm not allowed to eat red meat because of the acidity, but hey, let's go. You said green pepper. Shall we put it in?
We can put that in, but the pan is not talking to us. Did you remember to switch it on?
It's on high, and the pot is getting warmer.
Okay.
It's a big pot.
Just takes a little bit of time. And that, for that reason, potjie and goulash and dishes like that, it's not a quick takeaway situation. It's like, invite your friends and family over and let's make some potjie kos.
So,
Okay, now something very interesting, and a lot of people throw the pips away from peppers, but I absolutely love making use of the pips of the peppers, and for that reason you can see I kept it aside, and we're also going to be adding that. It just zooshes it up a little bit and gives that extra little bit of flavour.
Izelle, I'll take your word for it.
Okay, so I know I wrote this recipe and it was inspired in fact by my dad's recipe. My dad's a farmer, mom's a landscape, so I grew up on a farm, and that's why I absolutely love cooking with colour and vibrant vegetables. Any side notes so far from your side, because currently I'm just standing here and you're doing all the work?
Well, that's how it normally works in my kitchen. Everybody else talks and I do the work. So I don't mind stirring the pot. And as you can hear...
Stirring the pot, is that pun intended? So we're going to stick to the recipe today.
No. As you can hear, the pot is talking to us. And I must tell you, it looks lovely. It really looks lovely.
So again, that's where the beautiful purple of the onion comes in, the little bit of seeds and our fantastic green pepper. Now when it comes to goulash, I actually don't make use of the red or the yellow pepper, because we do want that bit of a green pepper taste.
Can I just show the viewers what this is?
Yes, of course, go for it. Cooking with colour.
It's a virtual masterpiece by Picasso.
Onion and pepper.
There we go.
Stirred piping.
There we go, yeah.
Then over to our meat. Now let's talk about the different meat cuts quickly. For people at home, maybe, venison is not in season. You maybe want to make this recipe over December when you're going camping or something like that. Beef is of course always second choice. I just find that when you cook with venison, sometimes a lot of people don't like that game taste in the meat. For that reason, you will see we're going to be adding a little bit of balsamic vinegar. It just sort of neutralizes that taste a little bit.
Okay. One of the things that when I started cooking with venison, from the research I did, I found that a lot of the older generation added so many spices and herbs to their venison that eventually it didn't taste like venison anymore. Now, I have a large problem with that, because I believe if you're going to eat venison, you've got to taste the venison. If you want lamb, buy lamb. Don't try and make the venison taste like lamb or like beef.
100%. So I think
I don't mind
with curry, funny enough. People curry everything and you actually don't know what kind of curry you're eating at the end of the day.
That's exactly it, yeah. So, shall we go in with the
back to lamb. You wanted to do a side note on lamb. Did you mention something about that?
Yes, lamb is a great favourite, especially when you make a potjie. Unfortunately, of late, lamb has become very, very expensive. So most people tend to fly the lamb and rather cook with beef or pork or something like that. Venison is also a good alternative, but nothing beats a good lamb potjie.
That is true. It's something in the flavour of lamb. Proper Karoo lamb. Karoo fed lamb. Are we going to be adding the meat to this pot?
Yeah.
So I try to make a little bit lean cuts. Of course, from a health perspective, you always don't want all the excess fat in there. And I did make up for it by adding a little bit more olive oil. So it's not about not having that oil or fat base in the dish. It's more about choosing your base or quality of oil or fat. And again, because we are eating from an anti-inflammatory point of view, that's why olive oil will be my oil base of choice. Ben is getting really cheeky here with the meat, so I'm just going to go to the next phase of our recipe. Now, after the meat is slightly being brown, I'm going to start by seasoning it with salt, some paprika, balsamic vinegar. We're going to be adding our honey and then dried parsley. Now let's, while we, giving the meat some time, let's run through those ingredients and maybe talk about the health perspectives a little bit. Now, when it comes to salt, now Ben, why do you think we add salt to our dishes?
For taste.
It's to enhance flavor, correct? But what if I tell you that there's a lot of poor quality salts on the market, and when you add those kinds of salts, it actually more ruins the taste than enhance, correct?
Yeah, it does. I bought some dishwasher salt the other day. It doesn't work in food, let me tell you.
No, Ben. But for today, because we are making goulash and a potjie, either or both, we're going to make use of the Oryx wine salt. So for this recipe, we're going to make use of roughly about a table salt. So if you want to be, doing the hard work again, I'm just busy delegating here, but roughly about a tablespoon of this beautiful wine salt that we're then going to be adding to the pot, but only once the meat is brown.
Okay, well, I'll do this. You brown the meat. And together we'll get there.
He wants me to get my hands dirty now. So, I'm going to go over and just give this a
You
little
want to
bit.
grind this and I'll brown it.
No. You grind away, babe. Okay. All these beautiful flavors. And by the way, this kitchen is smelling absolutely delicious. Can you sort of taste a little red wine flavor
Really
in
nice,
that
yeah.
sauce?
Really, really nice. I've never used this product.
Okay.
I know the Arctic salt, but this particular one I've never used.
I find it works phenomenally well. You know, rule of thumb is always red wine goes with red meat. So absolutely any dish, it works fantastic with lamb as well. Whenever I use all kinds of rich dishes, that is really always my salt of choice. Now all this is browning, I think we should start the temperature on this side because I actually want to start by just stir frying the roasted tomatoes a little bit. Because instead of making use of the bready or the relish, as a man would say, from a can, we are going to make it from scratch. And for that reason, we're going to just allow the tomatoes to simmer a little bit on this side, and then we're going to be adding it to the pot.
I assume you're going to need some olive oil.
That's the one.
I'm a chef. I know stuff.
You're a chef who knows stuff. I always say you're never too old to learn something, then. Yeah. Now over to our rosa tomatoes. Now this is roughly about 750 grams. And do you maybe want to know why specifically rosa tomatoes then?
Yes, please tell me.
So, I believe if you want to cook and make a sauce, of course you're looking for that flavor. Now again, like you said earlier, traditionally people can add so many spices and herbs and things that eventually becomes the overkill for any dish. Now I find that when you want to make a sauce sort of base, which this tomatoes is for, I find that big normal tomatoes is too watery, which means you're going to have to add too much or, you know, unnecessary paprika and everything else to the sauce. And the little cherry tomatoes I find too sour. Now if you make use of them, again, then you're going to have to add extra honey, which is also unnecessary. So the key to mindful, healthy eating is about making use of good quality ingredients in the right proportions and amounts to really just enhance everything that we're trying to capture in this dish. So the temperature is slowly but surely heating up nicely, and I already pre-cutted this a little bit. Another one for me. I feel like I'm part of the kitchen now. You might, yeah, we're just going to be adding this as well.
That's a lot of tomato.
It is a lot of tomatoes, but I find like tomatoes in a way is like spinach. You start with a lot and by the time it's cooked, it has really just shrunk to the perfect proportion. Now over to our paprika, which is then of course going to make the base with the sauce combined with these beautiful rosa tomatoes. Now, do you know the health benefits of paprika by any chance?
No, but it looks great on scrambled eggs.
Because why? They cook with colour. So paprika is actually a very potent anti-inflammatory, and you get it in the sweet one, which is usually the normal one, or you get the smoked one. So sometimes when we do those smoked ribs on the braai, or anything like you want to create that beautiful marinade at home, the smoky one is always the one to opt for. But for today, we're going to make use of the normal one. And then while we're talking about herbs and spice and everything nice, I hope, over to our fresh herb, we're also going to make use of it in its dry form. It's just normal parsley. Now, growing up, I grew up on a farm, like I said earlier, and my mom used to sprinkle fresh parsley over everything, from the beetroot salad to the mixed salad to everything else. And I used to think it's just that extra greenery she's just adding to everything. Today, looking back, I can appreciate the fact that she did that, because parsley, even though it's got a very mild, peppery taste, is actually a natural anti-inflammatory as well.
Okay.
So again, you see, we're becoming very mindful with regards to the ingredients we are adding to this pot. And I do believe we're putting a lot of love and effort into this dish. And sort of that's the same route, if I can say, like a farmer has on the farm, from planting to the seed, nurturing the seedling, making sure whoever is buying those vegetables and eventually putting it on their plates is getting the perfect vegetable or fruit every single time. So there's a lot of love and nurturing going into this dish, and that's why it's so important to know the effect of every single ingredient that we're making use of.
Cool.
Okay, cool. No other comments. So hopefully all Ben is going to remember today is anti-inflammatory. If all else fails, if we want it to be Izelle proof, it's anti-inflammatory.
There you go, anti-inflammatory. I learned a new word, anti-inflammatory. Can I put the salt in now.
Yes, we can. Sprinkle that over. I'm going to have to give this tomato a stir. And then we've got very lonesome vegetables there on the other side of the counter. And you might be wondering, what are we going to be making with those? And that's your normal mix, your potjie mix that you get on the shelf. Ideally, sometimes I like to be very selective because people tend to sound quite high maintenance, but then I sort of mix my own. But by standard, you need the green beans, you need a little bit of baby marrow. We've got some extra little baby onions in there, but also little tomatoes, and then of course butternut. I believe you can't make a beautiful hearty dish without soft cooked butternut in there. What is your opinion on that, Ben?
I love butternut.
Okay.
The first time I tasted butternut, a good friend of mine made it. He sliced the butternut in half,
Yes.
and he put filling in it, and he baked it in the oven. And I'd never eaten butternut before, and I tasted that, and it was being transported to heaven. It was absolutely wonderful. Since then, I've been a butternut fan. I prefer it to pumpkin.
Yeah?
I make butternut soup, I make stuffed butternut, I make fried butternut, I make butternut potjie, and whoa, that's the one.
I think that
That's
one.
the
Now
one.
this is my oven roasted butternut with your walnuts and cranberries. This really is a feast on a plate. It goes so well with your leg of lamb, your roast chicken. Just think of Christmas or Easter or any occasion where you've got the whole family around the table, and I promise you, even your mother-in-law is going to love this one, so be on the lookout for that recipe. But
You don't have to wait for Christmas or Easter. You
No,
can make
you
them for
don't.
supper tonight.
that is correct. So if you feel you want to share the love, make a little bit of effort for yourself as well as your loved ones, this is the recipe to go for. But butternut is also an anti-inflammatory. Did you know that, Ben? So again, we got to keep adding all of these ingredients so that by the time we eat this beautiful hearty dish or bowl of food, because I'm not even too sure, even if you're going to be eating out of the pot later, but it's going to be all goodness.
Can't wait. Izelle, one question. I put a lot of salt in here.
But it's a lot of meat.
Yeah, but normally when I make a potjie for this amount of meat, I would put in like a tablespoon.
But then what is the
But
other
I mean
stuff?
a teaspoon. I
But
put
what
in
is
a
the other
tablespoon.
stuff you put in there? Because you must remember all our herbs and other spice is 100% clean. So it's not like we're using a dry spice or a premix or a sauce or anything or any other condiment that actually in fact got salt. And remember, we're still going to add some honey to it as well. So you
about
need
the
the
wine?
sweet. No, there's no wine in this pot today. We're going for anti-inflammatory, remember, so you're welcome to have the wine on the side.
Good.
The wine on the
I
side.
use wine when I make a potjie.
Yes.
Sometimes I even put it in the pot.
So ideally, what wine would you pair with this? Ideally a red wine, of course. I mean, we added our red wine salt.
I would consider, instead of using a dry red wine, use something like a fortified wine, a port or a sherry or something.
Yes, something with a bit of sweetness. But
with
remember,
using a bit of sweetness,
we
yeah.
are adding honey.
That's
Honey.
of course, yes, I forgot
Honey.
about the honey.
Honey.
Sorry, honey.
Sorry, honey. It needs to be raw honey, just so by the way. Do you know the difference between everyday, common, off-the-shelf honey and a good quality raw honey?
I would assume that the off-the-shelf honey is not cooked. That's not why they call the other one raw honey.
So honey is actually... Oh, you're so clever. You're so clever. You see, I nearly didn't get that one. Luckily my hair is blonde and it takes me 2 to 3 seconds to catch on, but I in fact did. So, funny enough, the one day when I was cooking on a further bait, someone commented, it's like, why do you only make use of the uncooked form of honey? So, was that maybe you? Were you the one that, it was anonymous that made this sneaky comment, but raw honey is the unfiltered, unpasteurized one. So in the sense of it's got all the antioxidants and all the goodness. Honey is in fact one of the products that it does not have an expiry date. Honey cannot go off. Good quality honey, untampered with honey. Now, you get a lot of sugar solutions out there. You get a lot of sugar honey mix solutions on the shelf, and unfortunately that is not the correct one from a health perspective. Now, when we consume honey, and why I absolutely love cooking with honey, I think it must be one of my all-time favorite ingredients, combined with my olive oil, of course. You will never find me in the kitchen without my good quality oryx salt, raw honey, and a good quality olive oil. But honey is antiviral, antifungal, and it's of course also anti-inflammatory. But it needs to be the good quality one. Unfortunately, otherwise you're just consuming sugar, and from a health perspective, unfortunately, that is not what we would be looking for.
Okay, now Izelle, what happens next in this process?
So let's just run through our little checklist because we love talking and of course cooking as well, but I'm just scared we're not going to get this recipe right. So we started browning our meat, we added the salt. We're going to now add our paprika, which is about 2.5 heaped tablespoons of paprika. Now you thought it's a lot of salt. Now we're talking about paprika here, but remember, it's anti-inflammatory. It doesn't have any additional salt or anything like that in Ben, so go wild. After the paprika, we're then going to be adding our balsamic vinegar, our honey, and our dried parsley. Now for our dried parsley, we're only going to make use of a tablespoon of dried parsley. I can sort of start by adding that. Now when it comes to herbs, I can be sort of sneaky and cheeky, and I'm sort of just going to be adding it like that. Now you can say this, see this is a beautiful dried quality of your dried parsley.
That's very nice.
Now, as a matter of interest, do you use the normal parsley or do you prefer the flat leaf Italian parsley? Because this is the everyday normal one that we're making use of for the dried one. But right here in front, we've got a 1/4 cup, maybe a little bit extra because we're going to be sprinkling some love over this dish afterwards. This is the flat leaf Italian parsley.
Cool.
I sort of like the combination. I don't know what you think.
I normally use the flat leaf parsley, but I don't mind the other one.
I just find it just grows so well in your vegetable gardens. Parsley is one of those things you just need to have in your vegetable garden.
When do we add the tomato?
Okay, so the tomato is almost going to go into the pot, but the vegetables on that side is only going to go after we've added this tomato because we just want it to cook a little bit soft. Otherwise, it adds up to the extra cooking time on that side.
Okay.
Now we're all busy. We have busy lives, busy schedules, and just like myself, you also run quite a tight schedule. So you want to get the best quality food at the minimum amount of time, but as we all know, good quality food takes time. So if you can save a 5 or 10 minute here or there, by all means you should go for it. Okay, so our tomato is almost ready. We've added our salt. Maybe we can add our balsamic vinegar then as well.
How much do you want?
For that, we're going to be adding 5 tablespoons.
Tablespoons over there. What can you please? Thank you. 5 of them.
Is this a tablespoon?
Yes.
In your house?
In my house, this is a tablespoon. Okay.
Maybe make it 3 or 4 of those. I don't think 5 is necessary.
You are thinking dessert spoon.
No.
One.
No wonder he thinks did you really add that spoon of salt in my recipe? Because then we might be sitting with a problem.
3.
Houston, we have a problem.
3.
Yes, go for one more, 4.
That's why a chef should always use his or her own utensils, so that you know when you say tablespoon, you know what a tablespoon means.
But every single recipe in my book is very user-friendly. It's also flop-proof, so I always say to people, you can make use of your utensils at home. If you have the very delicate ones, and it's always the smaller, because nowadays, it's like you say, a normal tablespoon is not a standard tablespoon anymore. However, in mils, you are looking at the 15 mil size one. And when I was writing or developing this recipe, that was in fact the one I was using, not this shovel you are making use of at the moment.
Shovel.
It looks
Shovel.
like one big shovel here in your in your kitchen. So our tomatoes is almost perfect. That is starting to look absolutely
looks
delicious.
good and it
So
smells
just
wonderful.
over then to our honey. Now roughly a 1/4 cup of honey. Now you're looking at about 4 to 5 tablespoons, but I don't think that one. So again, I'm just gonna, do it the chef way with the
eyeball it.
Let's be honest, if you're cooking at home, are you really always using the perfect measurements for everything? You cook with a pinky because you're going to keep tasting, and the nose is going to tell you once you've overcooked it. Is that not correct? So we're going to be adding 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to add a 5th little squizzle there because you use the shovel for your balsamic vinegar. So rule of thumb is always when you cook with balsamic vinegar, you are going to make use of the exact sort of amount of honey to sort of cancel out that extra bit of acidity, but we are looking for that flavor, of course. And I think our tomatoes have got a little bit of heat on the bum because it's starting to release now some of the moisture. And now I would say is almost the right time to now add it to the pot.
Well, have at it, Miss Hoffman.
So just mind me just adding it there. Look at that beautiful, beautiful rows of tomatoes. And then we can, of course, just switch off the temperature on this side. Ooh, there goes a sneaky little last one. In you go. I think it's a Forrest Gump one. It wanted to run away there. Now all that's left to do before we put the lid on is we're going to have to add our beautiful potjie vegetables on
Okay,
that.
do I mix tomatoes through the meat?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's the sauciness.
Of course.
That's where all the love comes in. I always say cook with love because we are having a little bit of red detail on the apron, so that is representing love, of course. I mean, even you didn't disappoint today. You brought your A game with regards to the red apron. I see here on the left hand side.
New aprons with matching chef pants made for me by my friend Celia. Thank you, Celia.
There you go.
Look at my name on. Look there. Look there. Isn't that beautiful?
Very impressive.
Eh?
Luckily you have a short name, Debbie.
Well, if I had a long name like Balthazar, we would have used a longer piece of leather, man.
Big piece of material needed there. Look at all the colours. I just wish viewers at home can smell this pot and actually see what we're looking at the moment in this pot. That looks like a shark. Can people just have a look and you have no idea how amazing it is smelling at the moment. Come on, Ben, a little bit of muscle, a little bit of muscle. Just don't drop the sauce there because I can see our sauce is going south.
I'm watching the sauce.
We just don't want the sauce to go south today because that is what needs to just keep and lock all these beautiful flavours in.
Yeah. Okay, now in with the veg on the lid.
That is it. Now that is, I think, from a, as on a rating from a scale from 1 to 10, I think difficulty is about 2.5, 3. If you can chop an onion, cut up some parsley, buy vegetables, get the correct meat, fry an onion, then you can make this recipe right in the convenience of your own home.
Lid on.
Lid on.
Now the nice thing about this lid,
I like that.
it's got the grid on the one side and it's flat on the other side. So while you're making your potjie, you can fry an egg or cook a piece of horse or steak or whatever. Very handy pot.
You should not be frying eggs while you're making potjie because then you're making potjie for breakfast. Or do you have eggs for lunch, Ben?
You know, there was a time when we all got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch Hearty Potjie box in the World Championship. That's when you made breakfast on top of your potjie.
So you make the breakfast on top and the lunch for later.
You had the breakfast before the boxing match and you had the potjie afterwards.
So it's like they say, work smart, not hard.
Okay, I'm going to have a glass of wine, she's going to have a glass of water, and when we come back, this pot should be done.
See you in a bit.
Izelle, it's now been 45 minutes. Let's take this lid off and see what's happening in the pot.
Yes, of course. Now the only last thing that we need to do is of course garnish this beautiful dish with a freshly chopped parsley. And we already discussed why we decided to make use of the flat leaf Italian parsley for the garnish, because we use the dried one to infuse this fantastic, beautiful hearty dish. Are you just going to go for gold?
I'm just going to go for gold, yes. There we go. Gold. Green and gold.
If all else fails, just add some parsley, right?
Here's the green, there's the gold, or the orange, or the whatever. And it looks absolutely amazing.
And it's because we cooked with colours, right? You're looking into the pot and you just feel like, ooh, I just want to have a little bite of that. And I always believe if you're the home cook at home, keep a teaspoon, close by, not that shovel that Ben loves using, because you are allowed to, of course, taste the sauce in between to make sure the flavours are starting to, get married and live happily ever after. I'm going to just dig in the other side. Shoot. They stoked with. It's worth sitting detention for at school. That's how good this is tasting. It's not quite there just yet. I think we need a little bit, a few extra minutes of love there. Well, Ben is going for a whole soup mouthful.
This is very nice. But as you say, it needs another
Just
probably
a little
10...
bit too much moisture, right? I prefer the sauce to be a little bit all
thicker,
thicker,
more reduced.
Yes.
So what do you say? Do we put the lid back on or we leave it like this until it's reduced a bit more?
So from a health perspective, ideally I'm not going to encourage people to then add the pesto or the cornstarch, which is of course maizena. That's how you get it off the shelf, because usually you use that as a thickener for sauce. I do prefer to, give that extra little bit of time and effort, maybe have another glass of wine if you may, and allow this baby to just simmer to perfection.
When you see us again, this pot will be ready and we will be tasting.
For sure. See you just now.
Okay, Izelle, the process took about 2.5 hours, and now the proof is in...
It's not in the pudding, it's going to be in the potjie.
in the eating. Let's try this.
The butternut's perfect. So far all the vegetables in is quite spot on. Do you realize that you can actually taste every single ingredient that you are eating? And I mean, again, I can't stress it enough, because you actually mentioned it quite earlier in this whole cooking process, that so often people tend to overkill beautiful, good quality ingredients with the amount of herbs and spice that they're adding to a dish. And this is living proof that it's in fact unnecessary. You know, just make every single ingredient that you put in the pot or in whatever dish you're making. Make sure you make the him or her, for lack of that matter, the hero, and you've got a winning recipe every single time. Well, by the look of Ben's face, I think this is a winning recipe. What do you think, Ben? Oh, fantastic.
I have to tell you, Izelle, very often when people make a potjie, everything eventually takes on the same flavour. So you might have different textures, the meat and the potatoes and the rice and what, but everything tastes the same.
Yes.
This is really quite unique because I can taste all the different ingredients, and it's astonishing. I was expecting diet food.
Well, this is in fact living proof that eating healthy does not necessarily have to be bland, dull, boring food, because this is a picture in a pot. And yes, recipe will be made available then for any and everyone watching today, and would love to try this right in the convenience of their own home.
This is great. I know a little bit about making potjie course, and let me tell you, I've learned something today. Thank you, Izelle.
It's only a pleasure.
So if you'll excuse me, I have a plate of food to finish.
Well, and the rest of the pot, of course. So from our side, it was such a pleasure cooking with you today. Till next time.
See you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Potjiekos, dit eet almal mos. Hoendertjie of rooi vlees, selfs 'n snoek.